Yeah, let's start. It's a little bit weird not having a mic on me, but let's do it. So today I'm going to be presenting. This is actually, I probably should put it like a 2.0, but I presented this around 2 years ago. And from everything I've learned, I've kind of refined, and I want to make sure to, because we're coming up on the RITSEC CTF, I want to teach you all how to make a good CTF challenge, or just a CTF challenge. So first start off with that. RITCTF 2023. That's the short event link if you want to go check it out. But we're going to be doing this from March 31st to April 2nd. So full, what is that, like 24 hours, maybe 72, I forget. I don't know times. But yeah, so I want to do something a little bit different in terms of the who am I slide. So why am I up here? Why do I have any merit to be giving you advice on this? So some of you might not know this, but I used to be the old tech lead. Before Alex, there was me. So I literally made challenges week by week doing that exact thing. Next, I've also had challenges in the Red Team Village CTF, and I also write for the NCIE Cyber Games. So I do a lot with CTF. I really enjoy it, and I hope that, I don't know, I feel like I make pretty good challenges if CTFs like that willingly come out to me to get challenges. So the short of it, what's a CTF challenge? For those of you that have done the demos, you get it most of the time. It's capture the flag. So ultimately, what you're going to be doing is capturing the flag. It's a cybersecurity competition where you solve some kind of challenge, and we'll get into what the challenges are specifically. And at the end of it, you're either decrypting, finding, reassembling, a bunch of other verbs to get the flag. So it's highly technical. There are some easier ones. There's always some hard ones. Ultimately, you're learning something new to find a flag each time. So if you want to get more involved, Contagion, our own CTF team, amazing. And then also ctftime.org just posts all the CTFs out there, or I can't say all, but probably most of them. So if you ever want to get involved, try something out. There's pretty much an event every weekend, more than likely multiple events every weekend. No, it decides not to go through. So what are the general challenge categories? I've also kind of extended this to what we do at the RITSEC CTF, and as well as stuff that we've done in previous years. So first, there's pwn and bin. Sometimes these are split, sometimes there aren't. Ultimately, this is classic pen testing. You are trying to get into some system. You might have access, you might not. It also might be that you get a binary that you have to write an exploit for. Next, web. So exploit a website. Learn all those things that you learn in, CSEC 380. And if you haven't taken it, there's tons of resources online that you can use. Next, rev, or reversing. So you're going to be given some, it could honestly be anything. Sometimes there's executables of just absurd formats. Something that's compiled into some architecture that you've never heard of, and from some language you've never heard of. And then it's find the flag. Crypto, you're decoding or decrypting some flag. They're going to encrypt it or encode it in some random format. It might not even tell you what it is, might not tell you what it is, how you go through it. Within there, there's also steganography. That's most of the time gets lumped into crypto. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's thrown in MISC. But steganography is pretty much pulling secret information out of photos, or I don't want to say hiding it in plain sight, but encoding it in something that you normally wouldn't expect. Next, forensics. So this is like DFIR. So anyone who's interested in digital forensics incident response, you're pretty much, a lot of the time, you're going to get like some kind of like set of system files and like, oh, an attacker broke into the system, find out how they did, and there's going to be a flag there. Okay. They'll extend that a lot more. There's very much the potential to make very long challenges with that, multi-part challenges. Something that we did last year, I'm not sure if it's going to continue, but signals. After our own Wiggles and wireless interest group, I said unwiggle the flag. So this can be anything from, I think last year we did a lot of like phone phreaking, almost like historical hacks. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with it. And if you want to learn more about that, Kenny and Braden are going to be your best resources. Also, our previous ops lead, Philo, is absolutely brilliant when it comes to some of this stuff. Reach out to her. And then last, MISC. It is your grab bag. I want to mess with someone. There's something weird that I want everyone to learn, but there's no single category it can fit in, or there's just not a category for it yet. So generally, those are your categories, and you get to like pretty much choose from what it is. So first, you're deciding your topic. What do you want to actually make the CTF challenge about? What do you want people to learn from it? So for this, you can ask questions like, I don't think people know blank, or something. This is something cool that I wish more people knew. I wish I knew blank earlier. Like, use this as a reflective piece to say, I want to help teach people that might not know this, that I feel is vital, useful in every single day of my life, or maybe not every single day, but force them to learn something that you really enjoy, that you find value in. CTFs are ultimately about learning, and once you establish that, you can start to make really good CTF challenges. We'll get into it a little bit later, but one of the big complaints about CTF challenges is that, hey, this is guessy. Like, how was I supposed to know that? And when you're able to create like an actual graph and say like, okay, this is how someone's supposed to solve it. These are like the hints along the way that should funnel them into here. You don't want to purposely be pigeonholing people or giving them red herrings, although sometimes it's fun. You want to ultimately be making the best challenge you can, make it as much of a learning resource as you can, and yeah, have fun with it alongside that. So you figure out what your topic is. You need to start building the scenario. So this is how you lead someone into the topic. So you have like, okay, I want to make a web app. So what specifically about that do you want to like learn a little bit more about? So this could be like, of course, I put just like 2 for CI/CD. I put 2 because you can have multiple scenarios on a single topic. So if you choose the topic of JWTs, it could be as simple as I want to build a web app with like full authentication, and it's going to use JWTs, and then they're going to be exploiting how JWTs are signed. Cool, that's a challenge. CI/CD. There's multiple ways to build scenarios for any of these. Build the environment around that like kernel of knowledge that you want to give everyone. Ultimately, build that path, and so that could be everything from like, oh, you're already in an environment, and then there's like a CI/CD pipelines already that exist, and then you have to use those, understand them in order to get some kind of prevesc. Or you could just give them a code repository and say, hey, all this exists, figure it out. In terms of crypto, another really cool one a lot of the times is like block cipher modes. A lot of people don't focus on them, but there's a lot of ways that you can make crypto schemes that are, although theoretically, I don't know, all block cipher modes are cryptographically safe. It's how you implement them that makes them unsafe. So I don't know if we'll talk too much about that, but please like look up what block cipher modes are, and you can specifically see how they can be exploited. A famous thing is called like seeing the penguins, and it's if you're using ECB, electronic codebook mode, it encrypts every single block like the previous block. So if you have some kind of image, you can very easily leak information about it. Okay, so next, create it. There's not many instructions for this just because there's so many different ways that you can pursue. Just make sure that you're testing along the way. Make sure that what you do can be replicated. Yeah, build, test, get angry, repeat. Like that's what I like to say, because you're gonna get angry. You're gonna be mad at yourself in the past for not realizing something. You're gonna be mad at the challenge for not working sometimes, but it's the perseverance that makes a good challenge. And then overall, you want to figure out what technologies make your scenario a reality. So even though that you might be, say, exploiting JWTs, okay, what are you running on? Are you building a Flask app, or are you going for a full React one? There's more than one ways to implement absolutely every kind of challenge. So figure that out. Figure out what you want to learn. Be a little bit selfish with it. Do something you want to learn, and then just like pose it off as a CTF challenge. There's nothing wrong with that. Last, or I think there might be a little bit more. But one of the biggest things, document it. I don't care how easy you think your challenge is. When it's 3 a.m. and there's about 2 people up at the CTF and someone is saying, hey, this challenge is broken, this challenge is broken. And with the delirium of a couple monsters, no one's going to know how to even solve like a base 64 to code challenge. So make sure that you document how to solve it. You can even make automated solve scripts, make it really easy for people. This also allows you to make sure that stuff is up when you say it's actually up, because you can automate the solve. I like to say it, but determine if this is a skill issue or not. You get to be a little bit mean when you're running a CTF, just because there's so many people being mean at you. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but skill issue is a big problem within CTFs. Ultimately, with the documentation, there's a couple things you want to hit. So how to solve it, that's baseline. How to check if it's broken, or what are common breaks for it that might need to be reset. And then how to fix it when it's broken. And I'll talk to Zach about this. I have some templates that I use for my own CTF challenges in order for the documentation. We'll send those out for all challenge authors. And then lastly, deploy it. So this kind of goes with the documentation, and everything kind of works hand in hand. But a challenge, if no one can access it, it's not a challenge. There's a lot of things, like there's going to be a difference in challenges on whether you're running some like web application or running a server, or you're just giving them a text file. And ultimately, you need to be able to understand how they're going to be accessing it. Make sure that that line is tread carefully, and make sure that you're like actually making it easy to access, so that the hardest part of your challenge isn't just trying to figure out where you should be going. So rule of thumb, if it runs, it should be Dockerized. If no one knows Docker, I'd be happy to talk to you about how to use Docker. Ultimately, this makes sure that when it runs on your machine, it also runs on our machine fine. And then likewise, if we ever need to reset it, it's easy as just saying, put it up again. And it's super easy. So going back to those ideas, some challenges can be have difficulties with CI/CD. If you're hosting some kind of like public CI/CD runner, and that's how you're looking to distribute it, well, theoretically, every single time someone changes code, all those changes are going to be public, and everyone can see how other people are solving it, how other people are exploiting it. So that's something you have to think about. If you're interested in doing something like that, I have a couple scripts that are automatically able to deploy like repositories for people to exploit. That just becomes a complete like one-on-one challenge. Next, pwn. So a lot of times you're going to be hosting a box and people are going to get into it and they're going to have root access. Well, they can break the challenge. What's keeping them? Like, of course, people like to maintain the spirit of the competition, but some people don't. You gotta be expecting the people that don't, and know how to prevent and make sure that, like, hey, even if they break this challenge, it's not going to destroy the entire the entire infra for the competition. And then lastly, another consideration with web. There's a lot of ways that you can mock There's a lot of ways that you are able to mock in web in order to make sure that, hey, even though it's like an RCE, they're not going to be able to get full RCE. Make sure that they're able to only run like cat to see the flag, but they're not able to RMRF your entire root file system. A good example of this was the RITSec CTF 2021. There was a DeBaby challenge written by our own Philip DeBaby, where within, I think it was 30 minutes of the first blood, it instantly was defaced because you got root RCE, and people are like, oh, I'm gonna put my own funny images up here. And we had to take down that challenge. There's a lot more that you can do. Feel free to always ask me if you have any questions. There's a lot of considerations and ways that people can exploit things that you might not even notice. And then everyone's either very favorite or least favorite is creating the flag. This is where your creativity gets a hit a little bit, and it is very low impact. You can do absolutely anything. One mandatory thing is that you must have a flag wrapper so people know that it's a flag. So for RITSec CTF as well as RITSec, we use RS. I think until my second year didn't realize that all flags weren't just RS, because I've only ever done the demos and like I participated in only RITSec events. So fun fact, that's only for RITSec. So RS for RITSec, again, wrappers will vary. I think ISTS has like ISTS, and they'll change. But ultimately, you want to make the flag about the challenge. I guess that seems self-explanatory, but this could be anything from like names, hashes, or contents of like some file to prove that, hey, I actually exploited this. It could even be a reference to how you solved the challenge. Maybe a joke about it. There was a, whatchamacallit, last year Enzo wrote a challenge called like Capybara, and everyone said, why is it named that? Why would anyone name a challenge about pwn capybara? Well, the key of it is that you used get cap or set cap, ch cap. I forget the exact command, but ultimately the hint was there all along, and it gets people able to I don't know, kind of like reference back to me like, oh, I wish I saw that, or it might just help people straight up. Crypto challenges, you can actually use the wrapper to make whatever you're doing vulnerable. So the flag itself could be, or the flag wrapper itself could be part of the solve. So if you know that every single flag is going to start with RS, and you have a certain amount of bits, you will know instantly if it's correct just based on knowing that. And lastly, have fun with it. Don't do anything offensive. And lastly, usually, and it can vary, people usually use like leet speak or like caps and underscores. There's some like examples over on the side. There was like RSEA for scripting, and it was a challenge entirely based on you had to create like a network connection and then solve everything. Restrictions, you can break flags up. You can put them wherever you want and have people just lead them to them. Where did my mouse go? There we go. So I'm going to go through some case examples. These are all CTF challenges that I made and stuff that I was initially proud of, and I'm like, wow, that was bad, or wow, that was good. I have one really bad one. So this is what I call throw it in reverse. I gave a challenge. I made a challenge. I was in linear algebra, and I'm like, oh, it's like some modular matrix inverses. I'm like, oh, you could do something really cool with this. Where first you're gonna take the flag, split it into binary, make a matrix out of it, get the inverse of the matrix, and then you give them that back. And I'm like, that's simple. Anyone can figure that out. Well, one person figured it out, and in whatchamacallit, in one of the chats, they like added me and be like, you have like minutes left to live, and and they were mad even though they solved it, and there was only that one person that was able to solve it. So I gave them some input, and all this was, I'm like, oh, it's 144 characters. It can make or 144 numbers. It can easily make a matrix 12 by 12. Felt that was pretty self-explanatory. So you're able to then just map it to the matrix, do the inverse of the matrix, and get the flag. And I put like some like, I don't know, like math joke in the description. One of the rules of crypto, most of the time, I'd say pretty much all the time, don't roll your own. Don't roll your own crypto. Use something that people are actually going to find useful. Like, this is cool and all. You get to, like, I don't know, see how I think maybe that's maybe important. But no one's ever going to use this outside of this competition. And other than that, people are going to rack their heads over, like, oh, is this something that's known in industry? Because ultimately, that's what CTF challenges are meant for, is to kind of, like, push you forward in skills that are worth something. So this is a bad example just because it's obscure. There's no clear way to get from one from the other unless you're like visually telling them like, hey, do this and then this. One of my good examples. A lot of people really like this, and I don't know. I kind of want to do something again like this. I don't know how I don't know how I want to change it, but those who don't know, or does anyone know what Piet is? One person. So Piet is a programming language that uses coloring. So this right there is an entire That's an entire program. And what it does is print out the flag. So I'm like, okay, moving back, how do we get them to make that image? How do we get them to figure that out? And so those of you who have seen my Discord image, I just corrupted it, and I said, oh no, my picture of Freg, because I don't know what it was named, but I came up with Freg, and I'm like, oh no, my image is corrupted. And there was a couple of people trying to be smart and found the image online and like sent it to me and asked for the flag. So that even though it was just my profile picture and obviously not broken, but what you had to do from here is figure out like, hey, how do I get all those pixels out? And then from there, you're able to reconstruct it. You can see like, oh, you're on the right path because that's my username. And I think I didn't realize this until I like after the challenge, but I forgot the V or the D. That's what it was, the D in it. So it's not even my username, but we don't care. But yeah, and you're able to create this progression. It's something that's very visual. It's different. I don't know. You get to mess and like, I don't know. You can see the progression very easily. And then the last one was another good example. Again, what was good about it, it was straightforward. What I did for this one is I said, hey, I created this hash block diagram, and I gave you a hash to crack. Like this is a confidential hashing function. Here's a white paper that was found about it. We don't have any current implementations, but we know that the user's password is this. And I'm like, oh, okay. If I think they still do the lab on this in 201, and I copied very heavily from that, but made my own like diagrams, and I called it the RIT-sec hash. And so that each of the bytes in the digest was like RIT-sec on the starting. So people had to rewrite their own hashing algorithm. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people, it was straightforward to write. There was ways to test it. And on top of that, people got to do it how they wanted to do it. I saw people write it in C and Python and Go and whatever they wanted. And all of them were able to find the eventual flag where they just had to go through RockU and crack the hash. And it was just my username. So very simple. They know, hey, that's definitely the right flag. Yeah. So I'm gonna give like a little bit of unfiltered advice for writing CTF challenges. First, have fun. There's gonna be a lot of people that don't like your challenge. You're just gonna have to accept that. I've gotten multiple death threats. I'm trying to be nice, but like, if you make a bad challenge, people are gonna be like, I know where you live. And that's not to like scare people off. It's just that, I don't know. I just want you guys to be prepared for it. No one's actually gonna like try to like kill you over a CTF challenge, but they're gonna like talk in the Discord like they are, and we will handle that as a club, and make sure that they're not invited back. But have fun. As long as you're having fun with the challenge and you're able and you think it's something interesting and inventive, most people will too. Alongside that, everyone's a critic. I just talked about people calling my stuff like guessy, and like you got to be able to reflect on that and say like, hey, was this actually a good challenge? And like I talked about some, and I very obviously, or I've kind of refined the line. And if you're ever having an issue with that, just talk to someone. Explain like, hey, how should it be solved? And they can very easily give you advice from someone who's never seen the challenge before, or even just give it to people, other CTF authors, and say, hey, would you be able to crack this? And give them some advice, information, whatever it is, and see if they're able to do it, and see what information they can give you back to make a better challenge. Yeah, alongside deving with a friend, you're gonna run into obstacles, and it's always two heads are better than one. I've seen challenges where people just completely forget to include a part until like it's like in production, and that could be so easily resolved with some testing and stuff like that. And lastly, just ask for help. We're always here to help. We want to make sure that RIT-sec CTF 2023 is going to be as good as possible, and that's going to be due to your guys' challenges. And likewise, we're able to provide any and all support you guys need. So yeah, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. It wasn't a very technical talk. A lot of this is just like overreaching. Alex?
How do you approach testing the polygon?
Okay, so the question was about testing and quality control. So I'm personally not the best person about like unit tests and stuff like that, but if you're doing a very large coding project, unit testing is fine. But ultimately, make sure that from a clean slate, you're always able to solve it. So if you're running some VM and you're testing, uh, make sure that if you revert to the original or if you revert to the base of the challenge, you can solve it in one shot. There's no like back and forth, and I need to edit this and change this. Make sure that once you finish your challenge, you're able to solve it and solve it consistently. Likewise, have someone else try to solve it. See if they're able to do it. Throw it up on a full deploy and see like, hey, or really be a test deploy, but see if like in a production-esque environment, would this actually work? But yeah, there's plenty of ways to test, and it's going to be per challenge too.
Sometimes it can be hard to determine the difficulty of your own challenge, so what advice do you have?
So the question was about determining difficulties of challenges. That by far is the thing that I am least confident about. A lot of this is going to go down to gut feeling and talking to others. Like I know, I think it was actually again RITSEC CTF 2021. We had this challenge. It was like this giant reversing challenge, and we were all basically of the opinion no one would solve this. This is going to be so hard. This is a really cool challenge. Maybe like one of the professional teams. It was solved within the first 30 minutes. And it's just because there was this tool out there, I forget what it's called, that was just able to automate all of it automatically. And we just didn't know about it. So ultimately, worst case scenario, you fix it while it's being done. Uh, a lot of the times, your or the actual point values are going to be based on how many people have solved it. I believe for the our CTF, we do based on like how many people solve it. The challenge goes lower, or whatchamacallit, the point value becomes lower as more people solve it. So that also helps. Ultimately, it's just trying to do the research, trying to figure out from a baseline who's able to solve this, and if it's everyone, it should be a low like a low challenge. If it's like maybe one of the international teams, someone who's been in industry for a while, and at most at the end of the CTF, there's going to be 10 solves. That's going to be a hard challenge. So it's just trying to think about your competitors and how they're going to be running through it, and then from there you can try to figure out a difficulty. Any other questions? Awesome. Yeah, so speaking of CTF challenges, I think Shroud's next. And